Hi, I'm Tony, and I love to cook. Now, I have a high level disability and I'm a power wheelchair user, but I don't let that stop me from getting into the kitchen. So I hope with this video series that I can inspire and encourage you to get into the kitchen as well. Welcome to Accessible Cooking. Alright everybody, so what we're going to do today is we are going to cook a simple hamburger. So what we have here in our mixing bowl is 80-20 ground beef, so that's 80% meat and 20% fat. We've got it in the bowl. It's about a third of a pound, maybe a little bit more. And what we're going to do with this is we are going to make two patties. And we're going to double stack these patties and make a nice and juicy burger. So we have our ground beef here, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to season it with some salt and pepper. So I have some pre-ground pepper that I milled previously and added it to salt, and so we're just going to combine this into the meat here. Now, full disclosure, I don't measure anything, so we're just going to do this by eye. We'll add a little bit more salt and pepper to it. You really want to season it nicely to really bring out that beef flavor. So let's add just a tiny bit more. All right, and I think that's good right there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use a fork initially to start and work the meat together. You don't want to work the beef too much, because what happens is that the proteins in the meat bind together, they tighten up, and it really makes for a really tight beef patty. So you want to keep it kind of loose if you can. And we're going to work that salt and pepper in there. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to use hands. My helper, Deb, today is going to work that meat into a little ball, and then we're going to divide that ball in half, and then we're going to make two patties out of them. All right? All right, so we got a nice ball of ground beef here. Okay. And so she's just going to take her hands and divide that ball in half, and now you can see here, as she makes the patty, it's kind of off the screen there, so one moment please. Alright, so we're making the patty here, and what you want to do with the patty, and here actually Deb, if you can hold your hands down just a little bit more, there we go. You see the patty right there, you want to take your thumb and press right in the middle. Now what that's going to do is that's going to prevent the beef patty from bulging up in the middle when it cooks. If you ever cooked a burger on your own, you know sometimes you get that weird bulge in the middle. So if you press your thumb into the middle of the patty, that prevents that bulge from forming. So these patties, you saw the first one. Let's show you the second one here. It's very thin. You can see it's thin. So we're going to cook these patties hot and fast, okay? Because we want to create a nice crust and a nice sear on that patty, all right, to give it some good flavor. So Deb now going to wash her hands, practicing good food safety techniques here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add just a tiny bit of oil to this pan, because although there's enough fat in this beef to render and make it easy for the patty to separate, I don't want it to stick initially when we put the beef down. So we're just going to add a little bit of oil. All right, I think that's good right there. And we're going to turn this burner on medium-high heat. So everybody's stove is a little bit different. For my stove, I'm going to put it on 6. My stove goes all the way up to high, which I guess is 10, but we're going to put it on 6. We're going to let that heat up for a few moments, and you'll know your oil is ready to go when it's really loose in the pan and it starts shimmering a little bit. I will say that if for some reason your oil starts smoking, don't freak out. Just simply take the pan off the burner for a moment until the oil stops smoking. It's going to be okay still as long as it doesn't change color. You'll see it'll turn brown or black if it's beyond use. So if it starts smoking a little bit, don't worry about it. Just remove it off the burner, and then you can put it back on to get it hot again. So we're going to wait for a moment, and when our pan is ready, we'll put the meat down. Okay, so our pan is nice and hot now, and it's starting to smoke just a tiny bit, and that's okay. Again, you want to make sure your oil's really hot. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put these patties down on the pan. Okay, and you get that nice sizzle. You really want to make sure you get that sizzling sound. That's when you know your patties are hot enough. So we're going to let these cook for a few moments. Now, I use this visual cue when I cook meat, especially when I cook patties, to determine when I should flip it over. And so when the patty's cooking, I wait for the cooked part of the meat to come up a little more than halfway on the patty. And then when it's more than halfway up, then I say, okay, that's good enough, and then turn it over. So what we're going to do is we're going to let these cook for a few moments, and that beef is cooking up nicely. This is going to happen pretty quickly because, again, these patties are really thin. And that was the goal here, is to get a hot pan to cook these patties quickly, to get a nice crust on these patties. Now, you might like yourself a thicker patty of meat, which is perfectly fine. But if you do, I would suggest maybe using a slightly lower heat so that way you don't burn the outside and have a raw burger in the middle. But again, that's entirely up to you how you want to fashion your patties. Regardless of how thick or thin you like your patties, I do, however, suggest pressing your thumb in the middle of that patty to make sure that you don't get that weird bulge in the middle. All right? Actually, it's getting a little smoky in here. Let's turn on some fans in the kitchen so that way we don't set fire to the building. We'll turn these fans on. These patties are almost ready to turn over. Not quite yet. We're getting close, though. Alright, let's take a look one more time here. Look at that patty, and yeah, it's about halfway up. I'm going to leave it for just another moment, and then we'll flip it over. And then when we do flip it over, you should see a nice crust on these patties. Alright, let's go ahead and flip over now. And when you get that turner underneath the patty, you really want to thrust it to make sure you get that patty cleanly off the pan. And look at that. Oh my goodness, look at that. Nice crust on those patties right there. And that's going to bring out some really good flavor in this burger. So we're going to let that cook for just a moment, and then we're going to put our cheese on top to let the heat from the patty and the pan melt the cheese, and it's going to be nice and gooey by the time we're done with it. And again, you can see these patties have a nice brown crust on top, and that's really going to add a nice flavor to this meat. And as you can see now in the pan, there's a lot of fat rendering out of these patties because, again, the meat had a 20% fat content in it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and throw the cheese down now. The patty is starting to cook on the bottom side. I got this cheese. It's cheddar cheese from the local deli. You can use whatever cheese you like. A little pepper jack cheese is always nice on there. Swiss, provolone, Gruyere if you're really feeling fancy. But we're just going to use good old cheddar cheese. You can see those slices are starting to melt on top of that patty now. Oh, that burger smells super good. Super good. I'd say we've got about another at least minute or two on this patty before we take it off. That cheese is getting nice and melty on there. We already have our bun prepared and ready to go. Nice little sesame seed bun ready to go. You can see right there, bam. Sesame seed bun. And even though summer is almost over, depending on which part of the world you're watching this video from, summer is almost over. Or maybe summer's coming for you. I don't know, but this is a perfect recipe to do outside on the grill. Super easy. Alright, and I think these patties are just about done. So let's give it about another 30 seconds and then we'll pull them off. Alright, so that's almost 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and turn the heat off. We're done with that pan. And we're going to put these patties, we're going to stack them right on top of each other. Oh, that cheese started to stick to the pan. Very nice. All right, and there we go. All right, look at that. Look at that, will ya? Oh, man. All right, let's go ahead and top this burger off. And we'll cut it open and see what it looks like on the inside. The moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look. Oh, wow, look at that. Will you look at that? And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a perfectly cooked burger. Super simple, quick recipe. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again next time. This is Accessible Cooking. Take care.